Okay, so for week 3, Monday night item, before you get into doing this step, you need to, and this is, you can't do this step or really anything beyond this until you do the following, which is roll back up to week 1. And in week 1, and set up the dev environment, okay, I suggested, which I think most of you took my suggestion and set up your code space. So now, as I had said, and this is why I had you delete the code space so it doesn't get confusing. By the way, you can always bring those back for whatever reason you might have. You just need to make sure you understand how to manage the code, because now you would have 2 dev environments. But ask me about that. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to work through the installing VS Code and Git. You're going to clone. You're going to configure Git. And then the last step, which is learning the Git workflow, is pretty much what you've already learned. There's one slight difference that I'm about to show you. Otherwise, this will not be really new for you. Okay, so go through these 3 videos, get it, set up. Okay, so I'm going to move over to my local environment now. Okay, this is my local environment, and this is where in the video I recommend setting up a folder for the course name this semester. And I definitely recommend doing this way if you're taking more than one class. I can't tell really, except for what you're about to do, if you set up that base folder, but I just recommend for organization purposes you do. So then you're going to have 2 repos here, your private and your public, okay? And then down on the terminal, now how do you get to the terminal is really based on how you have it set up, but you can go to terminal, you can go to new terminal. At this point, you might see a bash terminal, which I think you will, but you also might see, depending on your operating system, like a Giz is one of the ones that, if for Mac, comes built in. And these are just different terminal interfaces. You may see PowerShell. I wouldn't, because I'm on a Mac. Okay, PowerShell is really only available, as far as I know, on a Windows. Now notice I already have several sessions over here, and I can just drop these if I don't want to use them and I just want to use Bash, and you can set up that default. Okay, so that's the thing. Now you should have, right, everything that now is that you've used. Okay, so now in here the difference is that this folder right here that you've created is not a repo. Okay, and notice when I go into terminal, because I have opened this base folder with these 2 folders, but that are not just folders, they're cloned folders. They have a connection out to GitHub. Because of that, this base folder is not a repo, but these are. And the reason I'm saying that is that if you were to try to do git, matter of fact, I recommend this, do git status here. When you do that, you'll get this message and you'll think, oh my God, what did I do wrong? And the first thing you want to understand is you're in the wrong folder, okay? Or you're not in a repo folder, which is why git status says this is not a repo. So then you want to be in whichever folder you're working. And for this one, right, I'm going to have you start in the private. Okay, and then we'll do something in the public. So in the private, I could either over here, and I typically like to do things from the command line, right? So I would do CD, R, and tab. And when I do tab, it does that smart search of whatever is in this folder. And it says, hey, I found 2 folders that they match here, but then I don't know which of these 2 you want. That's what it's saying to me right now. So if I do R and tab, it says, oh, okay, there's only one that has an R after the P, so that must be it. I could type it all the way out, right? I could totally do this, right? I could totally do that. It just makes it easier sometimes. And notice how my bash session right now is also telling me what folder I'm in. Now, in here, this is the command you need to do because you're going to take a print screen. You're going to do git log. Now, this is a different command than we've done before, not one you're going to need on an ongoing basis. But what this is going to show you is all the commits that have been done on this repo. These were done probably on CodeSpace, but notice how this colon is here because it can only show me ever so many based on my size of my resolution. So if I hit enter, keep going, eventually it's going to get to the end. And when it gets to the end, just hit Q and then it drops you back. in here. So now take your print screen. Okay, so take your print screen, do your resizing. So now let's go back over to the assignment that we're actually working on, which is in here in week 3. Okay, so this is what you're doing, right? So now that you have these two, open VS Code, and we just did the get log. Now take the print screen, resize the 720 by whatever it is, right? Remember, I also want you, and I'll put this in here, use good file names. I'll show you the one I use. So make sure it's always lowercase. If you want 2 words, you can put a dash, but do not do spaces in upper and lowercase. Okay, so then copy that. Now I ended up using my local system for changing that files folder and that size. And then what I did, and I think I can show you this because I think I still have it, right? So hold on, let me see real quick. Is this where I have it? Yeah, I've already moved it. Hold on, let me find it. Yeah, my print screens automatically go to my desktop. So when I opened it up, was this it? Yeah, here it was, right here. Okay, I get it inside of. It's interesting. Chrome has a built-in thing when I do print screen. So again, whatever print screen tool you're using. One thing I like to do is open it in my local system, and again, you don't want to have this name because look at that name. It's got upper lower cases, it's got space. It's way too much. Okay, so now what I did is after I did all the work, I just told it where I wanted it to save it, and where that was in my pub in my images, and that's the file I ended up with. Okay. So again, I'm not going to walk through the detail because that's what we've learned before. And then I did the get version control, right? So I did the get add or get status, right? So right now, if I did get status, now this is clean, but now, and let me be clear about this, and I'm going to close here, is when we did the get log, we were in the private. So now we're going to move to the public. So now I could do it the other way, which is right click in here. Right? So once you get that file, and I call mine local-ps, PNG. Now I've already done my version control, but now here, right, I could do you do your get status, your get add, your get commit, and your get push. Okay. So now you're going to embed it, right? And then tell us about your experience. So I'm actually over here. This is me. I've already pushed it. Right click, copy image address. One of the things I like to do is after I do that is I like to come over here. Yep, that looks good. And then I grab that URL. And I believe this is the way I showed it. So remember that if you attach images, it's not correct. Okay. Oh, sorry. You don't want to see that. That's my edit for the item. What I was trying to do there was hit reply. And on the reply, right, you can do this a couple ways, but if you go over to images, you do image upload. That's one way. You do URL. Under file URL, you paste that. You give it print screen VS Code Mac. Okay? And then you hit submit. And this is where you can come down here and look at what it actually did. Okay, and you could start writing this image tag pretty soon because you may already have the knowledge, but you will gain it through what we're going to do. Okay, all right, so now you do all that, and then in your reply you tell us about your experience of doing this work on your local system. Okay, and then yeah, so I gave you the points for how I will grade this. Okay, so that's for the first one. That's just showing us that you did it. So this, oh, by the way, this week, and that's what I should have led with, but oh well. This week is ordered a little differently. Lectures at the end, current topics, and then hands-on. We usually do it the other way around. And so now for the current topics, here's what I want you to do. Is one thing I want you to understand, and this is me talking about it, and then you'll watch this video, okay? And because I want you to first understand just the difference between Git and GitHub. But the thing I definitely want you to understand is this. From here on out, and by the way, this was also true when we were on CodeSpace. When you're on GitHub out here, you should not modify anything. okay, here. Because if you're modifying something here and you do that, then when you come to your local system and you're getting ready to version control and push, you'll get issues. And actually, those are called conflicts between what's on GitHub, okay, and what's on your local. So you only want to modify your files locally. Modifying them on GitHub directly will cause these conflicts. Now, you can resolve them, and I have a short little video I send out to students that run into this. But if you want to just save yourself a little bit of a headache, but also you learn in the process. So I don't think that's bad, but sometimes it can, especially if you're new to this stuff, it can be kind of disconcerting. Okay, so now in your reply, let me know you understand how we will use Git locally, right? And GitHub. So we use Git, we only modify Git locally, right? We use Git to modify, do code, put, version control code, and then we push to GitHub, right? And the reason I kind of emphasize this here, because one thing I've changed this semester is I used to have students actually modify files directly on GitHub, but I've stopped doing that because I have them actually have the experience of setting up code space. But I still think it's worth talking about here. So just make sure you reply. You can ask me clarifications, but from here on out, you should only modify locally, okay? And this is where if you did set up a code space after I had you deleted, then you'd have to make sure you managed between what was on local and what was on code space and what was on GitHub. It's doable. I do it. But, you just have to keep it wrapped around your head. Okay? Now, here's the other thing is watch this video, right? So in your reply, I want you to watch this. It's not a long video, and this is really good because this extends the conversation about Git, because we're only using a small part of all the commands that Git has available and functionality and features and platform. I mean, there's just a lot more, and we don't use all of those by any means, but I want you to know about them. Merging, pull, when somebody says a pull request, that's a very common thing you hear. You at least have a reference after this video, okay? And then tell us how you understand Git and GitHub and version control, right? So help us understand, after watching this, what you now understand about this thing we've been using. Okay, so that's it for your Monday, first Monday, or the only Monday, week 3. Hope this helps.